The Trump administration is set to strengthen semiconductor restrictions on China, expanding efforts initiated by the Biden administration. Joining me now is Brad Garsworth, Chief Investment Officer of Unearthing Opportunities. Good to see you. How will stricter US semiconductor rules impact China's tech industry?
Yeah, Mike, I mean, it's really the $1 trillion question here. I do expect this to have an impact, but don't forget, this has had an impact for some time, right? I mean, in the first presidency, we already had some large restrictions going to China, and it was more on the higher end artificial intelligence chips. But now what we've seen with DeepSeek and them being able to create pretty massive AI scaled models using lower end chips, I do believe you might see a higher across the board, restrictions to China, and that's going to have an impact to their technology for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me there. So what role do Japan and the Netherlands perhaps play in enforcing these restrictions? I understand they have a part to play.
I mean, it's interesting. I don't know the answer there, Mike. I mean, in terms of what will happen, China's gotten some of these chips, through different backdoors and through value-added resellers. So they've been able to procure some of these chips a different way. Now, will this continue to happen? That will remain to be seen. But ultimately, I think the restrictions this time will be more enhanced, and it should have a bigger impact to the country.
Okay, so could China retaliate, or I should say, will China retaliate against the expanded semiconductor curbs? I imagine they will.
Yeah, I imagine so too, Mike. I think that very likely they're going to, and they've already done and imposed tariffs across many different parts in industries, and they'll likely enhance it as well. So we are by no means over in terms of this trade war with China, and I think it's only going to get deepened and stronger, unfortunately.
Okay, now Apple over the page is set to launch a new AI server factory in Texas as part of a massive $500 billion investment in the United States. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, this is a big positive for the Trump presidency, having this major investment coming to the United States. I mean, the $500 billion. I mean, that's unprecedented numbers. Ultimately, this is going to help with across the board semiconductors, across the board from the component side. So this really an infrastructure play. This is quite bullish for technology. Now, this by itself won't be able to lift the tide, but it's certainly a good start, and this will definitely help on semiconductors and components going into the next several years.
There is so much technology coming at us, Brad. How will Apple's AI server factory, though, boost US tech innovation, do you think?
Yeah, and it's a great question here, Mike, and I also don't know the answer. I mean, I think that in terms of Apple wants to keep things here in the United States, they're probably getting good incentives to do so. Ultimately, we're still in the very early innings of the AI adoption, and we're only on generative AI. Wait till we move a few iterations over to quantum computing. That's going to be massive. It has some major drastic changes to the way we live our lives. So, we're still in its infancy. It's the right time to build this mega center. And I think we're going to get a lot of innovation from the company for sure coming out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we saw Microsoft develop a brand new, whatever it was, a silicon chip or something, or it was in the Atom, etc. But how does Apple's tax contribution shape its US presence, having paid over $75 billion in taxes in the past 5 years? The numbers, they adding up?
Yeah, I mean, look, Apple pays a tremendous amount of taxes. I mean, also the company generates a tremendous amount of profit. So, the big thing here that we need to pay attention to is, okay, well, is Apple still in a trajectory of up and to the right? The software and services component of Apple continue to do incredible things. That's going to continue to go quite strong for the company. And, they're going to pay a lot of taxes. I think they will. They might most likely got a lot of incentives for this type of deal. For this large infrastructure play, and spending $500 billion to build this out, it's going to be pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, the tax side, they've been doing quite well. They're going to continue to pay a significant amount of taxes over.
Yeah, keep the wheels turning. But lastly, consumer confidence has plummeted, I understand, in February, marking its steepest decline in nearly 4 years. What is attributed to the decline, do you think?
Yeah, so I've been talking about this a little bit on your program for the last several months now, and I don't think it's gone mainstream yet. I mean, ultimately, I see the job market here in the US not looking good at all. I think you're seeing the mega cap companies have been really paring down their staff, and we've seen major cuts across the large and mega cap companies in the United States. And I think where we are in just the beginning of artificial intelligence and robotics having impact to industries, this doesn't look good down the road either. So now the flip side to this, Mike, is profitability is quite good for companies as you cut back on people and as you can be more efficient. Your margins go higher and you get better profitability. So, ultimately companies look better and they should have better financials. But from a consumer standpoint and a purchasing standpoint, when you have less people out there in the marketplace, you have less people purchasing. And will the bifurcation of rich and poor, will that have an impact? And will that bifurcation of rich be enough to offset what's happening in the middle class?
Brad, I hate to use the R word, but could rising inflation push the US closer to a recession? Let's unpack this.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, I don't see that coming right now. I think after we have this initial stage of AI, of the AI race really evolving, and we're years away from this. So this is not coming soon. I think at that point it'd be a bigger concern. I think right now, because companies are in that infancy and they're going to be benefiting significantly from the efficiency that AI offers, they're going to benefit. The numbers are going to look good, and there's going to be enough of a spend from that top part of that bifurcation of wealthy and poor. So the wealthy will offset what we see. I think in several years from now, that's going to be a very important question, Mike. And I just don't know the answer clearly. But right now, I still think there's enough momentum from the companies to get efficiencies that will help the financials enough to do better.
Yeah, still so much up in the cloud, so to speak. But thank you so much for joining me on the program, as always, giving us a full rundown on everything out there at the moment. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.